The small scout ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a shudder. Through the viewport, Tai-Ho saw Tenebris for the first time. The planet looked like a dark marble, with swirling clouds covering most of its surface. "There it is," Junwoo said, his voice quiet. "The place where 42 researchers died." "And where we might find answers," Tai-Ho replied. He checked Jia-Yun's special suit one more time. The black material felt cool to the touch. Unlike standard Academy armor, it had no glowing parts, no humming power cells. Junwoo piloted the ship carefully toward the surface. The main expedition landed there. He pointed to a map on the screen. "That's where the research base is set up. We should land at least 5 miles away to avoid being spotted right away." The descent through Tenebris's thick atmosphere was rough. The ship bounced and shook. Outside, strange lightning flashed through purple clouds. They landed in a small clearing surrounded by tall black trees. Tai-Ho had never seen trees like these on Earth or any other planet. They had no leaves, only smooth, shiny bark that seemed to absorb light. "I can wait here for 12 hours, Junwoo said as Tai-Ho put on the special suit. "After that, I need to return to the academy before anyone notices we're gone." "I understand." Tai-Ho activated the suit's basic life support systems. Unlike regular suits, which glowed with energy, this one remained dark. Only a small display on his wrist showed that it was working. "Be careful," Junwoo said. "I'd like to leave this planet with the same number of humans I arrived with." Tai-Ho stepped out of the ship and felt the strange gravity of Tenebris. It was slightly stronger than Earth's, making each step feel heavy. The air smelled like metal and something sweet he couldn't identify. The forest was eerily quiet. No birds, no insects, no wind, just complete silence. Tai-Ho checked his simple compass and began walking toward the expedition's landing site. As he walked, the trees grew thicker and taller. The little sunlight that filtered through the clouds barely reached the forest floor. Tai-Ho used a small light on his wrist display, keeping the beam pointed down to avoid detection. After an hour of walking, he heard something. A faint humming sound. He turned off his light and crouched behind a large tree root. The humming grew louder, then stopped. Tai-Ho waited 5 minutes before moving again. He reached the edge of a clearing and froze. Ahead was the expedition's base camp. 6 dome-shaped shelters formed a circle around a central command post. Advanced sensors on tall poles surrounded the camp. Force field generators hummed softly, creating a blue glow around the perimeter. But something was wrong. The camp looked abandoned. No one moved between the buildings. One of the domes had a large hole torn in its side. Tai-Ho took out his scanner, a basic model that used minimal power. He detected only 2 life forms in the camp. Just 2, when there should have been 8 researchers plus support staff. "What happened here?" he whispered to himself. Moving carefully from tree to tree, Tai-Ho circled the camp. He saw signs of a struggle. Equipment scattered on the ground, a broken sensor pole, scorch marks from energy weapons. He found a small gap in the force field where one generator had failed. Staying low, Tai-Ho slipped through the gap and approached the command post. The door was locked. He used the emergency override code that all Academy staff knew. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the command post was dark. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. Tai-Ho saw a figure hunched over a console. "Hello," he called softly. The figure spun around, raising a weapon. It was Professor Kyleth. His feathers were dirty, and some were missing. A bloody bandage wrapped around one of his wings. "You." Kyleth lowered his weapon, his eyes wide with shock. "What are you doing here?" "I ordered you to stay away." "I came to help," Tai-Ho said. "What happened? Where is everyone else?" Kyleth's eyes darkened. "Dead. All dead except for Zoran and me. The Devourer came on the first night. It moved so fast. It went straight for our power generators, then our weapon systems. Just like the pattern I found, Taiho said quietly. What pattern? Kyleth demanded. Before Taiho could answer, a low rumble shook the building. Loose equipment rattled on the tables. It's coming back, Kyleth whispered, fear in his voice. The beast is coming back. 2 months passed quickly. Taiho settled into life at the academy and proved himself a capable assistant. He worked longer hours than anyone else in the lab, determined to show his worth. One morning, Professor Kyleth called an emergency meeting of the entire department. Researchers filled the conference room, buzzing with excitement. Taiho sat next to Subin, who had become his closest friend at the academy. What's this about? Taiho whispered. Subin shrugged. Something big. Kyleth has been locked in meetings with the Academy Council all week. Professor Kyleth entered the room, and everyone fell silent. The avian scientist looked more serious than usual. His golden feathers were perfectly groomed, and he wore the formal blue collar of official Academy business. Colleagues, Kyleth began, the Council has approved our expedition to Tenebris. The room erupted in surprised chatter. Taiho turned to Subin with a questioning look. Tenebris, Subin whispered, is a forbidden planet. No one has been allowed to study it for 50 years. Professor Kyleth raised his wing-like arms for silence. As you know, Tenebris is home to a creature known as the Devourer. 12 previous expeditions have ended in tragedy. 42 researchers from 7 species have lost their lives. Holographic images appeared above the table. They showed a dark world with dense forests and strange, twisting rock formations. Then came images of destroyed equipment and research stations. The Devourer is unlike any predator we have studied, Kyleth continued. It seems to anticipate our technology and weapons. It can disable our most advanced shields. It attacks without warning and leaves no survivors. Taiho leaned forward, fascinated. He had heard whispers about the Devourer, but thought it was just a scary story told to new researchers. Our expedition will have the most advanced defensive technology ever created, Kyleth said. 7 researchers will join me. We depart in 2 weeks. Hands shot up around the room. Everyone wanted to volunteer. Taiho raised his hand too. Professor Kyleth pointed to various researchers, noting their names. Then his sharp eyes landed on Taiho's raised hand. The avian scientist's feathers ruffled in what Taiho had learned was a sign of annoyance. No humans, Kyleth said firmly. Professor, Taiho stood up. I have experience tracking predators on Earth. I cooled. Earth predators. Kyleth made a sound like laughter. Your largest predators are primitive beasts. The Devourer has killed beings with technology thousands of years more advanced than humans possess. The room grew uncomfortably quiet. All eyes were on Taiho. With respect, Professor, Taiho said, keeping his voice steady, sometimes a fresh perspective. I will not risk the success of this mission on a species barely out of its planetary cradle, Kyleth interrupted. This is not a debate, Professor Kim. The selected team members will receive detailed briefings tomorrow. Everyone else will continue their regular duties. Meeting adjourned. As the room emptied, Taiho remained seated, his face hot with embarrassment and anger. Subin touched his arm. Don't take it personally. No one expected a human to be selected. That's the problem, Taiho said. No one expects anything from humans. Later that day, as Taiho worked alone in the lab, Professor Kyleth approached his station. You showed disrespect in the meeting, Kyleth said without greeting. Taiho looked up from his work. I apologize if it seemed that way. I only wanted to contribute. Listen carefully, human. Kyleth leaned closer. The Devourer is not like anything you can imagine. It doesn't just kill. It understands. It learns. It adapts. Stay away from this expedition. That is not a suggestion. It is an order. After Kyleth left, Taiho sat thinking about the professor's words. Instead of feeling discouraged, his curiosity grew stronger. What was this creature that could frighten even the most advanced species in the galaxy? That night, Tai-Ho began searching the Academy's databases for everything he could find about Tenebris and its deadly inhabitant. For 3 nights, Tai-Ho barely slept. He studied every record about the devourer that he could access in the Academy database. Many files were locked, but his friendship with Subin, who worked in the data center, helped him get around some barriers. Tai-Ho noticed something strange. In each attack, the devourer seemed to target the most advanced technology first. Weapons failed. Shields went down. Communications died. Then the creature attacked. It's not random, Tai-Ho muttered to himself as he reviewed the pattern again. It's hunting the energy sources. One morning, while getting breakfast in the Academy cafeteria, Tai-Ho bumped into another human. The man wore the gray uniform of the transport division. "Sorry about that," the man said, steadying his tray. "My fault," Tai-Ho replied. "I'm Ta-Ho Kim, from the biology department." Jun-Woo Lee. "I fly the small transport ships." Jun-Woo smiled. "Good to see another human face. There aren't many of us here." They sat together, and Tai-Ho learned that Jun-Woo had been at the Academy for a year. He was one of the few humans trusted to pilot ships between planets. "Are you assigned to any special mission soon?" Tai-Ho asked casually. Jun-Woo lowered his voice. "I'm taking supplies to Tenebris next week, ahead of Kylith's big expedition." "Why do you ask?" Tai-Ho's heart beat faster. This was the chance he had been looking for. "I need to get to Tenebris. Professor Kylith won't let me join the team." Jun-Woo's eyes widened. "You want to sneak onto a forbidden planet, to face the thing that's killed dozens of researchers. Are you crazy?" "Maybe," Tai-Ho admitted. "But I studied the Devourer's attack patterns. I think I understand something about it that the others don't. Even if I wanted to help you, which I don't, it would be impossible. My ship will be checked before and after the supply run." Tai-Ho leaned forward. "What if we went separately? After you drop off the supplies, in a smaller ship that won't be missed for a few days." Jun-Woo stared at him. "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious about anything." After a long pause, Jun-Woo shook his head. "I could lose my job. Or worse, my life." "We could make a huge discovery," Tai-Ho countered. "Humans would finally earn respect here." They talked for another hour. By the end, Jun-Woo hadn't agreed, but he hadn't completely refused either. The next day, Tai-Ho visited the engineering department. He was looking for Jae-Yun Choi, the 3rd human at the Academy. Jae-Yun worked on protective suits and armor. Her lab was smaller than Kylith's, but filled with interesting equipment. Jae-Yun was testing a silver suit that seemed to change color as it moved. "Tai-Ho, what brings you to engineering?" she asked, taking off her safety goggles. "I need your help," Tai-Ho said. He explained about Tenebris and his theory about the Devourer. Jae-Yun listened carefully. "So you think it's attracted to energy emissions? That could explain why advanced weapons and shields fail." "Exactly. I need something that will protect me but won't give off the usual energy signature." Jae-Yun walked to a locked cabinet and opened it. Inside was a black bodysuit that looked different from the other armor. "This is my side project," she said. "It's based on old Earth technology rather than galactic standard designs. It doesn't use the same power sources or emit the same signals. It's not as strong, but it might not attract the devourer." Tai-Ho finished. "It's not ready for field testing," Jae-Yun warned. "I'll test it for you," Tai-Ho offered. 3 days later, Tai-Ho met Jun-Woo in a quiet corner of the station. "I've thought about your crazy plan," Jun-Woo said. "I know a small scout ship we could borrow after I make the supply run. But we would need to follow 2 days behind the main expedition, and we'd need a really good excuse if we get caught." Tai-Ho smiled. "So you're in?" Jun-Woo sighed. "Against my better judgment, yes. Let's show these aliens what humans can do." That night, Tai-Ho packed Jae-Yun's special suit and the basic supplies he would need for the journey. In 1 week, He would either make a discovery that would change his standing at the academy forever, or become the Devourer's next victim. "Lower your weapon, Professor," Tahoe shouted. "It responds to energy signatures." Kyleth's weapon hummed with power. The Devourer's body turned toward the sound, drawn to it like a moth to flame. "It's hunting the energy in your gun," Tahoe explained. "Put it down slowly." Kyleth hesitated, then carefully placed the weapon on the ground. The Devourer flowed toward it immediately. A tendril extended from its dark mass and wrapped around the weapon. The gun's power light flickered, then went dark as the Devourer absorbed its energy. "Fascinating," Kyleth whispered. His scientific curiosity temporarily overcame his fear. "It feeds on energy directly." Tahoe nodded. "That's why advanced weapons and shields fail against it. The more powerful the technology, the more attractive it is to the Devourer." The creature finished with the weapon and turned its attention back to the medical pod door. The beeping continued inside. "We need to help Zoran without technology," Tahoe said. "And we need to distract the Devourer." He looked around the camp and spotted a broken piece of metal paneling. An idea formed in his mind. "Professor, I need you to get inside and stabilize Zoran manually. I'll lead the Devourer away." "How?" Kyleth asked. Tahoe picked up the metal panel. "Humans have been using simple tools long before we had advanced technology." He walked a few steps away from the medical pod and struck the metal panel against a rock. It made a loud ringing sound. The Devourer turned toward the noise. Tahoe struck the panel again, then again, creating a rhythm. The Devourer's glowing eyes fixed on him. It seemed confused by the sound that came without energy. "Go now," Tahoe told Kyleth. "Help Zoran." As Kyleth rushed to the medical pod, Tahoe continued making noise with the metal panel. He walked backwards slowly, leading the Devourer away from the buildings. The creature followed, its flowing body rippling with patterns of light. Tahoe noticed that the lights changed with the sounds he made. It was responding to the vibrations. "You like that?" Tahoe asked. He changed the rhythm of his strikes. The light patterns shifted in response. He led the Devourer deeper into the forest, away from the camp. The twisted black trees surrounded them. In the dim light, the Devourer was hard to see except for its glowing eyes and internal lights. Tahoe stopped at a small clearing. He put down the metal panel and took out a small mirror from his suit pocket. Jai-Yun had included basic survival tools that required no power. The weak sunlight that filtered through the clouds caught the mirror, creating a small beam of light. Tahoe directed it toward the Devourer. The creature reacted immediately. It flowed toward the light spot on the ground, trying to capture it. Tahoe moved the mirror, and the light spot jumped to a new location. The Devourer followed. "You're not so scary when you don't have high-tech weapons to feed on," Tahoe said, smiling. For 20 minutes, he kept the Devourer distracted with the mirror and metal sounds. He noticed it never tried to attack him directly. It only wanted the energy sources. From the camp, Kyleth watched through binoculars. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. A human, a member of one of the youngest species in the galaxy, was controlling the most feared predator in known space, using nothing but a piece of metal and a mirror. When Tahoe finally returned to camp, the Devourer remained at a distance, watching from the edge of the forest. "You played with it," Kyleth said, his voice filled with disbelief. "Like a Earth pet?" "Not exactly," Tahoe replied. "I just used tools it doesn't understand." "How is Zoran?" "Stable. I disconnected the power alerts and switched to manual life support." Tahoe nodded. "Good. Now we need to find a way to communicate with the Devourer properly." "Communicate?" Kyleth's feathers ruffled. "It's a monster. It killed my team." "It's not a monster," Tahoe said firmly. "It's an energy-converting life form that we don't understand. Think like a scientist, Professor. This is a chance to learn something new." Kyleth stared at him, then looked at the Devourer watching from the trees. For the first time, he seemed to see the human differently. "What do you suggest?" he asked. Tai-Ho smiled. "I have an idea, but I'll need your help." Night fell on Tenebris, making the dark planet even darker. Tai-Ho and Professor Killith worked in the damaged command post by the light of a simple chemical lamp. This old technology gave off heat and light, but no electrical signature that might attract the Devourer. "Here," Tai-Ho said, showing Killith his small datapad. "I've been recording the Devourer's light patterns. Look at these sequences." On the screen, colorful waves represented the patterns of light that had moved through the Devourer's body. "These aren't random," Tai-Ho explained. "The patterns repeat, with small changes each time." Killith studied the display, like a language. "Exactly." Tai-Ho nodded eagerly. "I think the Devourer is trying to communicate." They moved to a table where Tai-Ho had laid out parts from broken equipment. He was building something using only mechanical components, no power sources. "What is this device?" Killith asked. "A basic signal generator," Tai-Ho said. "But instead of electrical signals, it will create patterns of reflected light." Killith picked up one of the parts. "This is primitive technology." "Sometimes primitive is better," Tai-Ho replied with a smile. "Advanced isn't always the answer." As they worked, Zoran entered the room. The tall, four-armed alien moved slowly, still recovering from injuries. His gray skin looked pale. "The human's theory makes sense," Zoran said. "I reviewed the data from previous expeditions. All used increasingly powerful weapons against the Devourer, making it stronger each time," Tai-Ho added. "It's not evil. It's just feeding on the energy we bring." By midnight, they had built a simple device with mirrors, mechanical parts, and a small crystal that could split light into colors. Tai-Ho tested it, turning a hand crank that made the mirrors move. Beautiful patterns of light danced on the wall. "Now we need to test it," Tai-Ho said. "I'll go out alone." "Too dangerous," Killith objected. "We should wait until morning." "The Devourer is more active at night," Tai-Ho said. "This is the best time to try communicating." Before Killith could argue further, Tai-Ho put on his special suit and took the light device outside. The night air was cold on his face. Stars shone brightly above the dark trees. Tai-Ho walked to the edge of the camp and set up the device on a flat rock. He turned the crank slowly, creating patterns of light that matched what he had recorded from the Devourer. Nothing happened for several minutes. Then, a darker patch of night seemed to move among the trees. Two glowing eyes appeared, watching. "Hello again," Tai-Ho said softly. "I'm trying to understand you." The Devourer approached cautiously. It stopped a few meters away, its body rippling with internal lights. Tai-Ho continued turning the crank, sending out patterns. To his amazement, the Devourer responded. Its body lit up with similar patterns, but with small changes, like it was answering. Tai-Ho adjusted his device, changing the pattern slightly. The creature responded again. Back and forth they went, a simple conversation of light and movement. Inside the command post, Killith and Zoran watched through the window. "Incredible," Zoran whispered. "It's responding to him." Tai-Ho spent an hour with the Devourer, learning its basic light language. He discovered it could understand simple concepts: danger, food, territory. As dawn approached, he made a breakthrough. The Devourer wasn't just a predator. It was an energy converter. It didn't kill for sport or hunger in the way animals did. It transformed energy from one form to another. "You're not a Devourer at all," Tai-Ho said to the creature. "You're a transformer." As if understanding, the creature's lights pulsed brightly. It moved closer to Tai-Ho than ever before, towering over him. A tendril of darkness extended toward his face. Tai-Ho held perfectly still as the tendril touched his helmet. He felt a strange vibration, then a pressure in his mind. Images and feelings that weren't his own. The Devourer was sharing its experiences. He saw through alien senses, a world of energy flows and patterns. He felt the creature's confusion at the strange beings who came to its world with powerful, delicious energy sources then attacked when it tried to feed. Tai-Ho gasped as the connection broke. The devourer withdrew its tendril and backed away. Dawn light was breaking through the clouds. When Tai-Ho returned to the command post, his hands were shaking with excitement. It shared its mind with me. He told Kelith and Zoran, and I think I know how to save us all. Turn off everything, Tai-Ho said quickly. All power sources, all sensors, everything. Professor Kelith stared at him. That would leave us defenseless. Your defenses didn't work last time, Tai-Ho pointed out. The devourer targets energy sources. I saw the pattern in the old records. Another rumble, closer this time. The floor vibrated under their feet. Fine, Kelith said, his voice tense. But if you're wrong, human, we die. Kelith pressed several buttons on the command console. The emergency lights faded. The soft hum of equipment went silent. Only the dim glow of Kelith's natural bioluminescent feathers provided any light. Where is Zoran? Tai-Ho whispered. Medical pod in the next room. Too injured to move. They waited in silence. Tai-Ho's heart beat fast, but he forced his breathing to stay slow and even. His suit's life support was minimal, barely detectable even to the advanced sensors that normally monitored Academy staff. A new sound came from outside, a slithering, heavy movement. Something large was circling the command post. It's scanning for energy, Kelith whispered. His feathers trembled slightly. It always does this before attacking. Tai-Ho moved slowly to a small window. He needed to see the devourer with his own eyes. At first, he saw nothing in the darkness. Then a patch of deeper blackness moved between the trees. It seemed to flow rather than walk, changing shape as it moved. It was big, at least twice the height of a human. Its surface rippled like oil on water, reflecting no light. It's beautiful, Tai-Ho breathed. Beautiful, Kelith hissed. It killed my team in seconds. The dark shape paused. It seemed to be looking directly at the command post. Tai-Ho noticed how it moved, always toward the few remaining active systems in the camp. A broken scanner still sparked occasionally. The beast drifted toward it. It's not hunting us, Tai-Ho said. It's hunting the energy. The creature reached the broken scanner and enveloped it. The sparking stopped. Then it moved to a fallen drone, absorbing what little power remained in its batteries. I need to go outside, Tai-Ho said. Kelith grabbed his arm with surprising strength. That is suicide. 5 of my researchers had better armor than you, and the devourer tore through it like paper. Their armor was powered. Mine isn't, Tai-Ho explained. Jai-Yun designed this suit based on old Earth technology. It doesn't give off the same energy signature. You're betting your life on a theory. Tai-Ho nodded. That's what scientists do. Before Kelith could stop him, Tai-Ho moved to the door and opened it manually. The cool air of Tenebris hit his face as he stepped outside. The devourer sensed the movement. It turned, or at least, the front of its mass shifted, toward Tai-Ho. 2 glowing spots appeared in its dark body, like eyes opening. Tai-Ho stood perfectly still. His suit's only power came from a small battery pack that ran on different principles than galactic standard equipment. The creature moved closer, flowing across the ground like living shadow. It stopped 10 feet from Tai-Ho. The glowing eyes studied him. Hello, Tai-Ho said softly. I'm not here to hurt you. The devourer extended part of itself forward, a tendril of darkness reaching toward Tai-Ho. He forced himself not to step back. The tendril stopped just before touching him. Inside the command post, Kelith watched in amazement. No one had ever been this close to the devourer and lived. The creature circled Tai-Ho slowly. It seemed confused by the lack of energy signature. The tendril withdrew back into its main body. Suddenly, a loud beeping came from the medical pod in the next room. Zoran's life support system was giving an alert. The devourer's body stiffened. The glowing eyes brightened. It flowed past Tai-Ho like he wasn't there, moving fast toward the source of the sound. No, Tai-Ho shouted. He ran after the creature, knowing what would happen. The devourer would target the medical pod's power source, killing Zoran in the process. Tai-Ho reached the door first and blocked it with his body. The devourer loomed over him, its mass expanding upward until it towered 12 feet high, the glowing eyes fixed on Tai-Ho. He felt a strange pressure in his mind, like someone, or something, was trying to understand him. "You want energy," Tai-Ho said, "an idea forming. I can help you find it, but not from us, not from living beings." The devourer paused. Its body rippled with patterns of light that moved beneath its dark surface. Behind it, Professor Killeth emerged from the command post, a weapon in his hand. "Don't," Tai-Ho called out. "I think it's trying to communicate." Tai-Ho Kim stared out the viewport as the transport ship approached the massive space station. The Galactic Academy of Sciences hung like a glittering wheel against the purple-blue gas giant it orbited. After 3 weeks of space travel, he had finally arrived at Noctua. "First time seeing the Academy?" asked the blue-skinned pilot. "First time off Earth, actually," Tai-Ho replied, clutching his bag of personal items. Everything else he owned had been shipped ahead. The pilot made a whistling sound. Brave for a human to jump straight into the deep end. Tai-Ho didn't respond. He had heard comments like this throughout the journey. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Council, joining only 15 years ago. Most alien species still viewed them as primitive curiosities rather than equals. The docking procedure finished with a gentle bump. Tai-Ho gathered his things and walked to the exit ramp. He took a deep breath before stepping into his new life as the first human xenobiologist at the Academy. The main hall buzzed with activity. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved about with purpose. Some floated rather than walked. Others had too many limbs to count. The air smelled of strange spices and cleaning chemicals. A tall bird-like creature approached him. It had golden feathers, sharp eyes, and moved with quick, precise steps. Professor Kim. The universal translator in Tai-Ho's ear converted the series of clicks and whistles into Korean. "Yes, that's me," Tai-Ho said, bowing slightly. "I am Professor Kyleth. I lead the Department of Dangerous Species Research." The avian alien did not return the bow. "Your credentials are acceptable. You will assist in my laboratory." Tai-Ho had hoped for a warmer welcome, but he kept his face neutral. "Thank you for the opportunity, Professor. I studied your work on apex predators of the Orion sector." Kyleth's feathers ruffled slightly. "Yes. Well, follow me to your quarters. Then I will show you the laboratory." They walked through wide corridors filled with technology Tai-Ho had only read about. Other academics stopped to stare at him. Some whispered to each other. Tai-Ho heard the word human several times. His quarters were small but comfortable. A bed, desk, and small kitchen area were all he needed. The window looked out at the swirling storms of the gas giant. "You have 30 minutes to settle in," Kyleth said. "Then meet me at Laboratory 7, Level 3. Left alone, Tai-Ho unpacked quickly. He placed a small photo of his family on the desk and changed into fresh clothes. His heart beat fast with excitement and nervousness. This position had been nearly impossible to get. Hundreds of human scientists had applied for just 3 spots at the Academy. Laboratory 7 was twice the size of any lab Tai-Ho had worked in on Earth. Strange specimens floated in tanks along the walls. Holographic displays showed planets, star systems, and creatures Tai-Ho had never seen before. "You're early," Kyleth noted when Tai-Ho arrived. "Good. The other research assistants are over there." 4 aliens of different species worked at various stations. They looked up briefly as Tai-Ho approached. "This is Tai-Ho Kim, our human exchange scientist," Kyleth announced. One of the assistants, a being with gray skin and 4 arms, looked Tai-Ho up and down. "Is it true humans still eat dead plants and animals?" "Yes, we do," Tai-Ho said simply. "Fascinating," the assistant replied, not sounding fascinated at all. Kyleth pointed to an empty workstation. You will catalog our most recent specimens. The system is simple enough that even a human should understand it. Tai-ho bit back a sharp reply. I'll learn quickly, Professor. As he sat down at his station, a message appeared on his screen. It was from Su-bin Park, one of the other humans at the academy. Welcome to Noctua, it read. Don't let them get to you. Meet for dinner. We humans should stick together. Tai-ho smiled for the first time that day. He had a long way to go to earn respect here, but he wasn't alone. And he was determined to show these aliens what humans could do. He looked around the advanced laboratory and felt a surge of determination. One day, they would see him as an equal. He would make sure of it. 1 month after the Tenebrous mission, Tai-ho stood before the full Academy Council. The large chamber was filled with representatives from 27 different species. All eyes were on the human scientist. Professor Kim, the council leader, said, "You disobeyed direct orders, stole Academy property, and risked a diplomatic incident with your unauthorized mission to Tenebrous." Tai-ho nodded. "Yes, I did." "And yet," the leader continued, "you also saved 2 valuable researchers and made first meaningful contact with the Devourer. The council has reviewed your findings and Professor Killith's report." Kylith stood up from his seat. His golden feathers were perfectly groomed again, and his injured wing had healed. "If I may speak, council leader." "Proceed, Professor Kylith." "I initially believed Professor Kim's human approach to be primitive and dangerous," Kylith said. "I was wrong. His understanding of the Devourer was correct, and his methods, though simple by our standards, were effective where our advanced technology failed." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Tai-ho spotted Su-bin and Jia-yun sitting together, watching proudly. Jun-woo stood at the back, giving him a thumbs-up signal. The council leader raised a hand for silence. Based on these findings, the council has made 2 decisions. First, a new research station will be established on Tenebrous, with proper safety protocols based on Professor Kim's discoveries. Tai-ho smiled. The energy emitters he had designed were already being mass-produced. Second, the leader continued, "We are establishing a new department at the Academy, the Center for Alternative Approaches. Professor Kim will lead this department, focusing on solving scientific problems through multiple perspectives." Applause filled the chamber. Even aliens who had once looked down on humans now showed respect. Tai-ho felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had changed how the galactic community viewed his species. After the ceremony, Tai-ho returned to his quarters. They were larger now, befitting his new position. As he entered, his communication screen lit up with an incoming message. The sender was unknown, but the origin was clear: Tenebrous. Tai-ho opened the message. There were no words, only a series of light patterns. The same patterns he had seen in the Devourer's body. He quickly pulled out his notes to translate. The message was simple but extraordinary. "Friend, return. More to learn." "Impossible," Tai-ho whispered. The Devourer had somehow accessed the research station's communication system. It was learning, evolving. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Professor Killith entered, looking unusually excited. "Did you receive it too?" Kylith asked. Tai-ho nodded. "The Devourer is communicating with us. This changes everything we know about energy-based life forms." "Indeed," Kylith agreed. "But it chose to contact you first, not me. It recognizes you as, what's the human word? A friend." "We need to go back," Tai-ho said. "Properly this time, with the right equipment." "The new research station will be ready in 2 months," Kylith said. "The council has approved a joint leadership. You and I will head the project together." Tai-ho smiled. From research assistant to project leader in 3 months. Not bad for a primitive human. Kylith made a sound that Tai-ho now recognized as laughter. Perhaps humans aren't so primitive after all. Different, yes, but your species brings something valuable to the galactic community, a reminder that newer doesn't always mean better, and that sometimes the simplest solution is the right one. That night, Tai-ho met with Su Bin, Jia Yun, and Jun Woo to celebrate. They were no longer the only humans at the academy. 5 more had arrived that week, with more coming soon. To the devourer, Jun Woo toasted, raising his glass. The beast that the aliens feared but the human understood. And to underestimation, Tai-ho added, may our enemies always continue to underestimate humans. As they celebrated, Tai-ho thought about the message from Tenebris. The devourer was waiting for him. A new kind of communication between entirely different forms of life was beginning. And humanity, the newcomers to the galactic stage, were leading the way. This was just the beginning. Tai-ho, come in, Tai-ho. Jun Woo's voice crackled through the small communicator. I can't wait any longer. The Academy has noticed our ship is missing. It was midday, and Tai-ho had been on Tenebris for almost 24 hours. He held the communicator close to his mouth. I'm alive, Jun Woo. The situation is under control, but I need your help for the rescue. Rescue? You found survivors? Yes, Professor Killith and Zoran. But there's a problem. If you land with the ship's engines running, the devourer will be drawn to the energy and attack. There was a long pause. So how do I land without engines? You need to cut power at the last moment and glide in, Tai-ho explained. Can you do that? That's extremely dangerous, Jun Woo said. But I'll try. Send me landing coordinates. Tai-ho provided the information, then turned to Killith and Zoran. Our ride is coming, but we need to prepare. Together, they gathered the few working devices from the camp. Zoran was still weak but insisted on helping. What's your plan for the devourer? Kylith asked. Tai-ho opened a small case containing parts he had collected. It needs energy. We've been treating it as an enemy, but it's just hungry. I'm going to give it what it wants, in a controlled way. He showed them his creation, small energy emitters made from the expedition's broken equipment. These will give off a steady, low-level energy signature, Tai-ho explained. Enough to feed the devourer without harming it. We'll leave them here as a peace offering. Kylith studied the devices. You're treating it like it has feelings. It does, Tai-ho said firmly. Different from ours, but real. I felt them when we connected. They worked for another hour, placing the energy emitters in a wide circle around the camp. Each one was calibrated to last for months before needing replacement. As afternoon approached, they heard the sound of a ship. Jun Woo was coming in fast, too fast. The engines roared, then suddenly went silent as he cut power. The ship dropped like a stone, then leveled out in a dangerous glide. It skimmed the treetops before hitting the ground hard and sliding to a stop near the camp. He made it, Tai-ho said, running toward the ship. The door opened, and Jun Woo stumbled out, looking shaken but unhurt. Never ask me to do that again. I need 5 more minutes, Tai-ho said. The devourer will come when it senses the ship's energy. I have to talk to it one last time. As if on cue, darkness moved at the edge of the forest. The devourer had sensed the ship and was approaching quickly. Get inside, Jun Woo shouted, pulling out a weapon. No weapons. Tai-ho knocked Jun Woo's arm down. Trust me. Tai-ho walked toward the devourer, carrying his light pattern device. The creature stopped, its body pulsing with curious lights. We're leaving now, Tai-ho said, creating light patterns that he hoped conveyed the message. But we're leaving these for you. He pointed to the energy emitters. The devourer extended a tendril toward the nearest emitter. It touched it carefully, then absorbed a small amount of energy. Its body glowed with satisfaction. It understands, Tai-ho said to the others. It won't attack if we leave calmly. Kylith stepped forward, watching the devourer with new interest. We should establish a proper research station. Study it properly, not as an enemy, but as a new life form. Exactly, Tai-ho agreed, but with proper precautions and respect. They boarded the ship carefully. Jun Woo powered up the engines at minimal levels. The devourer moved closer but stopped at the edge of the emitter circle. As the ship lifted off, Tai-ho looked down through the viewport. The devourer was moving from emitter to emitter, feeding peacefully. It raised a tendril toward the departing ship, almost like a farewell. It worked, Zoran said in amazement. Your primitive solution worked. Not primitive, Tai-ho corrected, just different. Sometimes understanding is more powerful than technology. As the ship broke through Tenebrous' atmosphere, Junwoo set course for the Academy. What will you tell the Academy Council? They'll want answers. Tai-ho smiled. The truth, that humans have something valuable to offer the galactic community, a different way of seeing problems. Kyleth nodded slowly. Perhaps we have underestimated your species, Professor Kim. That's oak, Tai-ho said. Sometimes being underestimated is an advantage.